But Brandon, now it is time to move into the team. I'll be honest, this is the team in this division. I could not wait to talk about this team. And do you know why? Do you know why I couldn't wait to talk about this team, Brandon?
You know what? I think I do.
Would you mind telling the listeners and the viewers why I can't wait to talk about this team, the Texas A&M Aggies?
Kevin Sumlin.
Kevin Sumlin. If you guys, a few weeks ago when this wonderful man was in Florida, I had the opportunity to talk to you guys solo, one-on-one, and I kind of talked about, and I asked the question, will Kevin Sumlin be fired after 2017? It kind of set things up, Brandon, before I throw the question at you, because you were not there to answer said question. By the way, that's what we're going to start here on the podcast, is with that question. But I look at Kevin Sumlin, 8-5, 8-5, 8-5, 9-4, 11-2. Since that first season with Johnny Manziel, it's been a lot of, we're 8-5, we're 4-4 in the conference. Like, ever since that 2012 year where you went 11-2, 6-2 overall, you were tied for second in the West Division, it has been literally 8-5s with 9-4, and your conference record has been 4-4s with 3-5. So you went backwards in the conference rank. I'm going to ask you, though, because you did not answer that question, with Texas A&M to start this preview, does Sumlin get fired after this season? What do you say?
We have to look at the season. We have to look at the season and see how they do.
Look into your crystal ball. What do you think is going to happen, man?
I can't
Brandon's
tell you
like
exactly.
that is not something I like to do, is look into my crystal ball, because we're usually wrong.
No, you know I hate doing that because I don't like being able to jump in the gun, because then you tell me you're a dumb idiot. Well,
sometimes we are, though.
Yeah, you can't always lie there. But here's the thing: is that it's if I were a betting man, I'd say they go 8-5 again, because they've been so good at it for the last couple of years.
4-4 in the conference.
Yes, I would say exactly that's what it is. But I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if I was a betting man, I'm not. But take a look at what they did last year. Let's just really quickly run through what they did last year.
Okay.
They start off, they go 6-0. They start off by going 6-0, and then they meet up with Alabama. And we started to kind of get the thinking that this was not going to last after that game against Tennessee, when they were able to slip by double overtime. Great game, exciting.
I was glad Tennessee lost, though. Let's be honest.
Yo, you hated them last year.
Well, because they
shouldn't have been winning.
They should have. They should have lost to Appalachian State.
Anywho, they beat UCLA to start the season too with overtime. They beat Auburn. They beat, at the time, number 17 Arkansas. Arkansas, isn't that how they say it? But I think that everyone kind of had these expectations. Everyone, let's not lie here. Some people had an expectation, and most of those people lived in Texas, that they would come in, play Alabama, possibly beat Alabama, or at least play them really well. Well, what did they do?
They got spanked.
The exact opposite. They lose 33-14. And that is, again, how, wonderful. You did great this season. You went 6-0 to start the year. You won all these games in the you only had one conference loss. Okay, who is it to? Alabama. Always. It's always to Alabama. That needs to start being the thing. How competitively are you playing against Alabama? I know that can't be the only thing that you measure it by, but it is one of the biggest things that you have to measure it by. How do you compare to them? And personally, defensively, you couldn't stop them. Not that anyone really can, but I think one of the biggest issues for Texas A&M, and what it has been, is they cannot stop mobile quarterbacks. I mean, take a look at what Nick Franklin did to him. They shredded him. 182 yards against them. 2 touchdowns. That's a quarterback. That's a quarterback. Texas A&M, if Kevin Sumlin wants to be able to keep his job, these things that they continue to not do well at need to change so they're doing well at them, or at least better. That's what needs to happen. And I think that they've got a guy coming in at quarterback, Kellen Mond, who has the opportunity and the potential to lead this offense to the next stage for Texas A&M. But the bigger question, and the question that you've posed, is Kevin Sumlin going to be the guy to be leading this team with that quarterback? And I can tell you simply, if he's anything less than 8-5, he's gone. If he's 8-5, I would have to almost assume that he stays. What would be different about this year that's been different from the last 2 years, 3 years, when he's gone 8-5? What would change? So if he did better than that, if he went 9-4 or 10 or above, he's definitely safe, in my mind. If he goes 8-5, he's safe because they seem to be okay with his consistency of 8-5. But if he's anything under 8-5 or 8 wins, he's gone, because then that's a change in the wrong direction. If it's anything that stays stable, which to them that's what that is, I think. It's stable.
It's stable.
Or anything up, he's safe. That's how I would see it.
Well, and the thing that I am looking at is, and here was one of my big points then that I'm bringing back now, is even if you go 8-5 again, you have to make the decision of, are we fine with that? Are we fine just floating on through, being 4-4, 8-5? Ooh, we went to a bowl game, but we're never going to get to the playoff because we're 8-5 and we're 4-4 in the division. Ooh, not going to win the SEC. That's okay. Went to a bowl game. 8-5. And the thing that's funny about this schedule is I'm looking through it. Guess what record overall I think Texas A&M gets to at best? Tell me. 8-5.
8-5.
How about in the SEC? What record do you think I have them going at best?
Just going out on a limb saying 4-4.
4-4. The 4 teams I have them losing to no matter what: Florida, Alabama, Auburn, LSU. Talked about the big 3 enough. I don't think Texas A&M has what it takes to beat them. Plus Florida on the road in the swamp. That's going to be a tough game. I'm going to give it to Florida. Give me the 5th automatic loss that I have. I think UCLA gets the better end of Texas A&M this year. Not only is it in UCLA, I think Josh Rosen plays better this year for the Bruins. There's your 5 automatic losses. The rest is all a toss-up. Depends on how Nick Fitzgerald comes out. Depends on how Arkansas does. That game is going to be on a neutral site. Depends on how South Carolina comes out. And this team has the potential. I said 4-4. Just flip Arkansas and Mississippi State. You're looking at a 2-6. And then you're looking at a 6-7 season. That's kind of the season that we were talking about record-wise for Ole Miss last year. So that is more the realistic side that I am going with for Texas A&M. However, the big thing that they do have is they've got 2 big playmakers on the offensive side. One that I believe is going, if he has a good season, he will be one of the higher-end receivers taken in the NFL draft, and that is Christian Kirk. He's the junior receiver. Then they also have sophomore running back Travion Williams as well. So if those playmakers can get going, they might be able to go 8-5 again and 4-4 again. But are they going to be able to get over the hump? No, because I don't see them beating Alabama. I don't see them beating Auburn, LSU, or Florida. And really, those are the big 4 games. UCLA being the other one outside of the conference. I just don't see them winning those big in-conference games this season.
Well, Ricky, I just went through it.
Did a little math?
Did a little math. I see them at 7-5.
Okay, so a little bit less than that. A little bit less than the 8-4 or the 8-5 that they're usually with, because that would become with a bowl game too. Yeah. So the 8th win would be a bowl game.
I see them at 7-5. This is how I have it. I have them actually going 5-0 to start the season.
So you have them beating UCLA.
Yeah, I put it up there because I can't say that I'm sold on UCLA right now.
I just think that they've got to do better than they did last season, especially Rosen, who this is going to be the big draft year for him.
This is a big Rose year for Rosen. I have them beating Arkansas. I have them losing to Alabama. I have them losing to Florida. I have them losing to Mississippi State.
3 straight games.
Losing to Auburn.
4 straight games.
Beating New Mexico, beating Ole Miss, and losing to LSU. That's how I have it right now.
So you're
I just went through it. A rough sketch for anyone who's like, kill him. He sucks.
Not too far off. I mean,
rough sketch.
You had them win a non-conference game and lose a conference game. I had them lose a non-conference game and win a conference game. That's the only difference between you and I.
But I have them winning against UCLA, and I think a lot of people would probably be like, "You're crazy," because it's on the road at UCLA
and
too.
That's
but
what I'm saying.
But it's the reason I just ended up going with the win for them. They beat UCLA last year, and I know that shouldn't really do anything, but they beat UCLA last year. Not completely sold on what UCLA has this year. Again, we haven't gotten to their preview yet, but we will in the next couple of weeks, and we'll talk about them. But right now, I'm putting Texas A&M in there for the win. Slotted them right now for the win, but that could change. But that's just going through right now, right off the cuff of seeing who I think. It's gonna be an interesting run for them from Alabama to Auburn. Then it's broken up with New Mexico. You better beat them. But Mississippi State will be an improved team. Auburn, they're hoping to be a pretty darn good team. Florida, we'll talk about them soon. They're good. Defense is always strong, and they have a new quarterback.
Well,
and then
that's what I was
Alabama
gonna bring up.
is always good, and they're always a force. But that one's always interesting because as big of an Alabama fan as I am,
no bias though.
I am none. I am interested and almost ready. Like I'm preparing myself for how I'm going to handle a regular season loss. I'll probably go nuts. Have to drink a beer 5 or 7. But it's going to come. That day's going to come when one of the other teams, and it may not even be under Saban. That's the thing. It may be down the road when he leaves or in the next couple of years, whatever. But someone will beat Alabama. An SEC team will beat Alabama in the regular season, and then that'll just trickle, and we won't be able to, they're going to beat Alabama because Alabama's going to win because someone beat them the year before. And you look at this and go, don't know what to do now. One day that will happen. But until that happens, you almost always have to say, no matter if it's LSU, if it's Auburn, if it's Mississippi State, if it's Texas A&M, you almost have to say, I see Alabama getting that win.
One of the big things that I see as a negative for the Aggies this season is inexperience at quarterback. Is it going to be the guy who was the backup last year and Jake Hubernack? Is it going to be Nick Starkel, who was the redshirt freshman? Is it going to be Kellen Munn, who's the true freshman coming out in this class? Either one of those guys, I'm not screaming any type of experience from. And the thing I look at, if you look at Kevin's, and I hate that it comes back to the head coach, because every other team we've looked at and every other team we are going to look at in this division, it's not going to come down to the head coach. We're not going to look at Alabama and go, well, this player is inexperienced. What does Nick Saban have to do with it? Like, we're not going to look at that. But because of Sumlin, how it's just 8-5, 8-5, 8-5, plus another thing that we didn't even mention, they have not finished higher than 4th in the division since 2012. I wonder who they had then.
He must have been good.
He was really good until he got to the NFL and had some problems, but I hope he's getting those fixed. But Johnny Manziel. So I look at it, if I'm the AD, especially after this season, if they go 8-5 again, I'm looking at it going, so unless you have Johnny Manziel, this is what I am stuck with. And eventually the goal for Texas A&M should be to break into the top 3. And I think they got to finish higher than 8-5. However, the reason why I say they won't is, number one, talked about them enough. We're going to get to them, I believe, after this. We're getting to LSU after this. So, yeah, we'll talk about them after this preview. Won the big 3. They're going to be hard to beat. Then you also have the games, like I said, LSU. Ole Miss is on the road, although I think they can win that one on the road, though. That might be a thing to look about And then number 3, you have an inexperience at that quarterback position, which you did not have when you went 11-2 in 2012.
Well, let me kind of throw this out there to you.
Okay.
Johnny Manziel, you look back to 2012, and I think looking back there now, being in 2017, 5 years later, you look back at 2012 and go, wow, did I even realize that Johnny Manziel was really good until he was already doing stuff and really good? Then we finally figured out,
middle
wow,
of that season.
Johnny Manziel is pretty good. Didn't know about this guy, but he's good. Texas A&M didn't know there was another team in the SEC that was good. That's a lie. There were. But the point is, all Texas A&M, or any of these teams need, they just need the next big guy who we don't expect to be expect to be the next big guy to be that guy. Maybe it's Nick Starkel. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's Kellen Mond. Maybe it's not. But that's all they need. Because you can go after these really good superstar, 5-star recruits and get them. And, not everyone you get is a Deshaun Watson. Not everyone you get is a Johnny Manziel, talking college, of course. It doesn't happen like that. But then at the same time, some of these guys who you get, 4-star recruit, you think, oh, they're going to be pretty good. They'll be a solid quarterback for us. They'll certainly be able to get us, 8 wins. Boom, 10 wins. 10 wins. 10 wins. And you're like, don't leave. Because they're that good. All they need is one of those guys to do that, and you could turn around a program with that. That's how you do it. Sometimes you're not even knowing that that's going to happen, and it falls into your lap. Not because you didn't think they were going to be good, but you didn't know that they were going to be this good. You have scouts to make sure that you're getting the talent that you're supposed to be getting, but it's those guys who are working hard, putting in the hours to be that next level talent, and one of these guys could be it. I'm not saying they will be. I'm not saying they won't be. That's just all you need, is that some guy to come on and take hold of this program, say, it's mine. It's mine. We're going to be good. We're not going to be 8-win good. We're going to be 9-win good. We're going to be 10-win good. We're going to the playoffs. That's what they need one of these guys to do.
Well, I don't mean to take a sledgehammer, kind of Looney Tunes style, to your thought there, but I will look right into the camera and I will say this. None of these 3 quarterbacks are going to be A, as good as Johnny Manziel was, B, none of them are even going to come close to a Heisman, and 3, none of these 3 are going to come close to a 10-win season this year. I will look right in the camera and say that to you guys. And also with Johnny Manziel, you look at it.
Now look at me. What are you going to say to me?
Well, he was there, and you might be saying, well, Ricky, Johnny Manziel wasn't just there in 2012. He was also there in 2013. Interesting. The only other time besides 2012 that Kevin Sumlin had more than 8 wins. Holy shit, what's going on? But another thing that I look into that 2013 season is there were 2 things that made it that step down. Number 1, teams figured them out. Alabama lost to Johnny Manziel in 2012. 2013 came back and beat him. That was the game A.J. McCarron went 4-0. Touchdown to INT, where Johnny Manziel 5-2, but 21 of their points came in the fourth quarter. Alabama was already up like 49 to, 21 minus 42 is 21, so it was 49 to 22, and they ended up losing 49 to 42 because Johnny Manziel didn't have enough time in the fourth to do it. Auburn also got revenge on them that next year. So A team started to figure out Johnny Manziel a little bit, but also Johnny Manziel, you could kind of see the beginnings of the fame and fortune that was coming in the NFL kind of already getting to the young kid's head, where it was all about the show me the money Manziel sign. I think that these quarterbacks are inexperienced. It's not against them. It's looking at Kevin Sumlin. I just look at what they got to go against in the SEC. The quarterbacks, they're looking behind the 8 ball. Like, this is not a team quarterback-wise that I look at and go, man, Texas A&M is really going to beat Alabama this year. No, I'm not looking at that like people thought in 2013 after Johnny Manziel beat them the year before. That's the only reason why we thought that was because we're like, shit, Johnny Manziel did it before. He might as well do it again. The ending point that I think here is that Kevin Sumlin needs more than 8 wins. If he doesn't have more than 8 wins, he's out because consistently mediocre is not going to be enough, and Texas A&M needs somebody that is going to help them get over the bump. I'm not saying win the SEC. I'm not saying to dethrone Alabama. I'm just saying to get into the top 3. They need someone who is going to get them over the hump. But before we move on into the big 3, starting with LSU, any final points on Texas A&M that you think we did not touch that we have to touch before we throw it on to the listeners and the viewers?
I think that the final point that I want to make, and again, kind of hammer it home, is that, one of these guys, no one's going to be Johnny Manziel. You only have one. Let's be honest. You only have one of every good quarterback that went through school anywhere. You only have one Deshaun Watson. You only have one Johnny Manziel. You only have one, of those
one
really,
Marcus Mariota, one Jameis Winston.
Let's say that. You could say it about anybody, and that was good. You don't need to be them. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. That's the point. But you just need to have the mindset. You need to have the winner mentality and the winner mindset that comes in and says, you know what? Screw it. I don't care that people think that we're a mediocre team. I don't care that people think, Kevin Sumlin's really struggled with multiple good quarterbacks, and as his time as a head coach, he kind of has. Mm-hmm. But I think they need to just have the mentality of let's go get it. Let me work as hard as I can to be the very best that I can be, to be even better than what they recruited me as, and take hold of this offense, make it mine, and be a true leader. I think that that's all part of it. It's being able to take on the leadership role, the leadership mentality, and already having those skills is going to help you be a successful, not just quarterback, but player, teammate, all these things. And it gets these guys to rally around you and gets these guys to play even harder. For Kevin Sumlin, maybe, but for you, yeah.
Well, and before I throw it on there, just a little thing that I thought of from what you were saying is, yes, you only get everything once, but I didn't even think about it. You popped into my head how many times someone, hey, I'm going to be able to work with this good quarterback, and it just hasn't been able. Maybe a change of scenery would be good for not just Texas A&M, but for Kevin Sumlin as well, whether that's in the NFL or it's in the college game. But this is where I want to throw it on. I just wanted
to say,
go ahead.
I cannot remember who it is, so I apologize if you're watching again. Mm-hmm. We had a commenter comment and say that there would be a new head coach coaching North Carolina, and there would be a new head coach coaching Texas A&M next season.
Yeah, and it was Les Miles will be the coach of the not Texas A&M, the first one of UNC, and then it was Trent Paylor. Trent Paylor said that Chip Kelly, not Les Miles. Chip Kelly will be the head coach of North Carolina. Larry Fedora, who's right now with the Tar Heels, will be with the Aggies next year. That's what he said on our UNC preview. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know down below what you guys think about Texas A&M. And really the big thing is Kevin Sumlin. Does he get fired at the end of this year? Let us know down below in the comment section.